Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Gemini, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for Cancer season, or June, July 2026, whatever your timing paradigm is. I am here for it. I'm also here for you, and I hope you are well. I'm using the I'm not 777. I was going to say triple goddess. I'm not. I'm using the 777 tarot for you today. And before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end via the links in the description box below. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie if you just want the standalone for this video. If you want access to all of the extended content that I make for all of the signs, plus the weekly energy readings, plus the opportunity to come and participate in the Decan Walk, you might want to come over to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, on the Circle platform. All of that is available there. And if you join at the higher tier, you can come participate in the live classes that run over there and have access to all of the recordings for the previous classes that we've run over the last 18 months. So it's an extraordinary community, and I don't quite know where I would be without them, to be honest. So I would love to see more people coming along and taking support, the kind of support that you can only get from a community who understands not just the energies of the moment, but how this is hitting everyone, extraordinary people. Anyway, I'm going to stop gushing because they know how special they are and how special I think they are. And let's have a little chat about what we're doing here today, Gemini. So I'm going to move my coffee cup out of the way first. The first thing we're going to do is pull some cards to have a look at where you are right now. I think it's the most important question that you can ask yourself in 2026, and all other questions really pale into insignificance compared to this one. So we will sort of draw some cards for that. The second set of cards that we will pull has been inspired by the Decan Walk and where the sun is in the sky at the moment. So obviously it's in the sign of Cancer. And so I've been looking at what needs nourishment or emotional support at this time. And almost across the board, it's actually uniformly been ourselves. So we can sort of take that as a given, but we're going to dig into a little bit what the exact nature of that is going to look like for you. And then we'll close out with the second most important question of 2026, which is simply, what is the next move? That's it. We don't need to worry about where we're going or having big plans or anything. Where is just the next place that we put our foot down. So I hope that that's okay for you. In the extended, we will dig into anything that comes up here. Yeah, this card's been doing the rounds quite a bit recently. So yes, let's do this. Let's have a look and see what's going on. Where is Cancer right now? We have the Star. That's a lovely card to start with. Oh, we've got the Ace of Swords. It's just landed on my chair there. And we have the Two of Swords on its side with the Ten of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Gemini, I did wonder if we were going to see that card for you. To briefly give you an idea of what the Decan Walk is, as you are well aware, there are 12 zodiac signs. But the energy of those zodiac signs is divided into 3 parts, each of which is known as a decan, and each one has different flavour of the sign that it's a subdivision of. So as the sun transits through, for example, the first decan of Gemini, it has a different flavour to the second and to the third. And there are corresponding tarot cards that go with these decans. So in the case of Gemini season, we were dealing with the nature of the 8, 9, and 10 of Swords. And we can see that that is uncomfortable. And I have to say, from what I've seen, for most people, we have had an experience of quiet discomfort, quiet internal confrontation, sometimes external confrontation. But for me, the Ten of Swords is completely inseparable from the idea of growth. Because for me, it represents the limits of our cognition. So the limits of a belief system, the limits of a narrative, limits of how we have thought about something for the longest time. And in recognition of that, we move from the 10 to the ace, where we start to see things differently. Quite literally, we are dealing with a different, a higher evolved version of the truth. And as we might expect, it's usually quite challenging, and it doesn't feel nice. No one likes their paradigm being shattered, because ultimately we are creatures of comfort and we like our comfort zones. They're there for a reason. And this Ten of Swords seems to be have kind of hit everyone across the board one way or another. It's come up. And I think it is in the acknowledgement of that that we find ourselves in a Ten of Swords state. Now, this is the shadow card, so it is the underlying theme for the entire reading. And there are certain things that we have realized and recognized that lead us to this place here. So whilst this is uncomfortable, I do actually like the fact that the Ten of Swords gives way to a new way of seeing things, even if by definition that has a level of discomfort associated with it. Now, right across the board here, Gemini, you have air. And you actually have all three of the air signs represented. So we've got Aquarius here with the star. We've got the Two of Swords representing Libra, and we have the Ten of Swords representing Gemini. It's like the whole gamut of thought and reason and logic and the way that you see the world. And the way that you process information is showing up here right now. And to have the ace sitting in the middle feels to me actually a really powerful statement of recognizing what has to go, recognizing that even though we may not know what we're going to fill the new with, there's a sense of kind of looking to the horizon and seeing where it's not even the path forwards, you know, because that's the difficult thing about the star. We see it hanging in the sky and it falls to us to find a way to navigate to it. The star doesn't necessarily illuminate the way forward, it just shows us the direction that we're traveling in. Now, the star card is one of healing. It is one which is not the same as curing. It's so interesting. I was listening to someone talking about Chiron and the myth of Chiron this morning. And the person concerned drew this distinction between healing and curing. And I think it's probably a really important one, Gemini, particularly as it pertains to you and your thinking, because to heal is not to return oneself to a state where before that thing happened. It is to recognize that the thing happened and then develop scar tissue, right, over the top of it. To cure, I don't know, it feels like it's a return to a previous state. And that's not what's been going on with you. When I did the meditation before I even started recording, there was a distinct heaviness in my head. Now, the energy of the star is often quite light. It has us looking up, right, which we can only really do if we've got that maneuverability, right? When your head feels very, very heavy, it is difficult to pull it up, even to eye line with people, let alone look up to the sky. And I think where you are right now is recognizing that looking up to the sky is going to be necessary, and that there is a kind of new truth that is forming. But I don't think the Ten of Swords has quite completed its work with you yet. Not really. Because we have this Two of Swords on the side. Now, the Two of Swords for me, it's a card that I have described in the past as willful ignorance. Not in so much as we are... It sounds a little abrasive when I put it like that. It feels more like the things that we pretend that we don't know. It is sometimes the things that we don't know, actually. There is usually something that speaks to emotion that is sitting in the background. Well, to be fair, we have that because we've got the moon in the background, right? But normally there is a big body of water. And as I'm looking at this, there actually seems to be something really quite rocky in the background. And so there's a little less water here than one would usually expect to see. I mean, the moon is there and it's bringing the intuition to the moment. But I don't think you're quite sure where the emotions fit into what you're seeing right now. Now, when it shows up in the reverse, what we have is a sense of having tripped over or consciously discovered even what we have not been seeing about a given situation. And the fact that it's showing up here shows me, I think, that it is in the process of turning, but it's not there yet. It's like the Ten of Swords has not fully completed its work yet. One of the things that I pointed out to my community when I was doing a video talking about the Ten of Swords was how much emotion seemed to be an intrinsic part of that card, even though it's not really what our eye is drawn to in the first instance. The underlying emotions dictate a lot of what we think. And so when we're changing what we believe, which is what a Ten of Swords will represent, is a change of belief, where we're just like, we've come to the end of believing a thing, whether it's believing it about ourselves or believing it about something out in the world, it doesn't really matter, right? It's the moment of, I can't keep going thinking that this is the way that that I am, that I show up, that I do, whatever, right? Um, the first time you did something and you realized in that moment that you were not the hero in your own story, that's a Ten of Swords moment right there. In fact, you may well be playing a very strong villain in somebody else's, and many other examples besides. Um, it feels like the turning of this Two of Swords here is part of the process that is unlocking a wider ability to be able to look up and see where this is taking you. I do wonder if there is a bit of emotional triggering that you're still trying to work out where to put. Because, like I said, there's usually this sense of water in the background and it just looks a bit like a Martian surface, right? It's just rocky and stony. We know that it's not because there are flowers around the sword here at the bottom, right? So there is some sort of emotional nourishment in there. But it speaks to the whole process of healing as exactly that, a process rather than a state that we arrive at. It is a present continuous action. It doesn't seem to have a finite point where we can look at it and say, oy vey, I am cured, or something like that, you know? It feels like you're in a difficult place in your own head. Like I said, that heaviness of your head is very uncharacteristic for Gemini. It's not a bodily sensation that I associate with Gemini. Let's look at its Two of Swords. Lord. Yeah, I mean, here, I think this is saying a lot. Now, I don't want you to read this as negative. I know it might be difficult to do that when we've got the 9 and the 10 of the swords on the table, but remember what I said about this all being a part of a process, right? The whole suit of swords, to my mind at least, is a lurch towards cognitive crisis again and again and again. Why? Because this is the process by which we change our mind. If it didn't matter, then there wouldn't be the emotion behind it, and it certainly wouldn't be something that we bothered ourselves to believe in. But there's this feeling here, Gemini, that seems to circulate around the idea that something conclusively is coming to an end. Not has come to an end, but is coming to an end. And there will be a point where there is a decision that needs to be made by you about the direction that you will be moving in the future. To wit, what it seems to be is an orientation exercise, maybe even a calibration exercise, where you are trying to find your personal star versus the one that you thought we were all just kind of lurching towards. There's something intrinsically personal about what you're experiencing at the moment, that is happening in a backdrop of other people, which is really strange. Now, It's just strange because I'm just trying to find ways to describe what I'm feeling here, right? We've got double Ace of Swords on the table so that we know that there is something very, very new that is in the offing. Whether it's arrived right yet, it seems unlikely because this work is still ongoing. And there is some residual energy around, have I even got this right? The Nine of Swords, it's a card of unpleasantness, mental unpleasantness. But it is ultimately a card of perspective. And when we are trying to work out what we actually believe, what we actually think, all that sort of thing, what we're really doing is trying to calibrate our reality. And it seems like there is so much information that is coming up for you right now personally. It doesn't feel like it's about what's happening external to you. It feels like it's the way that you're processing the information and what it means. Trying to find the meaning of that so that you can calibrate yourself towards your own personal star. Like, the time is coming for this action to happen. Judgment card is sitting at the bottom of the deck here. It's saying a decision will be required. But the Judgment card also represents the state of rebirth. Sometimes when I see the Ten of Swords, and I think it's specifically when we see it in the Waite Smith, there is a sense that it is always darkest before the dawn. But the dawn is on its way. And whilst you may be kind of tied up at the moment, and I'm specifically looking at this Ace of Swords, this crown that this character is wearing on their head is actually tied up with the sword there. It's a case of, am I wedded to my belief system, even in the face of alternate information? Or am I coming from a place of truth and I'm just trying to find a way to understand it all that makes sense to me? Like I said, this Two of Swords is still turning. It's not quite here yet. The rebirth that is, it's not even at this point promised, but that we hope is the corollary of what we're going through right now, is there. This question of synthesis has come up a lot with a few signs. It's a word that I keep using, I've noticed, over the signs that I'm reading for Cancer season as well. It's synthesis, coalescence. I mean, I guess to some extent you would say also embodiment, but it feels like all the building blocks that come before the state of embodiment is achieved. And so in the experiencing of it, it feels like a mess. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to think my way out of this one? But at the same time, I don't think it's quite as messy as you think it is, Gemini. It's just a struggle to get out of that Nine of Swords, Ten of Swords state and burst through to the Ace of Swords. I mean, I said before, like, for me, often the Ten of Swords, I don't mind that showing up. I quite like that showing up, because what it gives way to is the relief of a new kind of truth. But I'm wondering if the new kind of truth is bringing with it relief, or whether it is something in and of itself that needs to be adjusted too. It's not just recognizing what is ending, but also recognizing what is beginning and having to calibrate the emotions between all of those. It feels rough at the moment. Let's have a look at some cards and see where the emotional even really fits in here for you, right? Talking about emotional nourishment and emotional investment and stuff. Whoa, come back here, you. We have, I'll get it out here. Three of Wands, Four of Wands. Oh, goosebumps. Well, I can see why your head feels so weighty, Gemini. We've got the Justice card at the bottom of that deck and the Judgment card at the bottom of that deck. You know, if you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I have that trifecta of cards that definitely speaks to an intervention of, I don't know, fate, destiny, karma, if you will. It's kind of dragging us in a particular direction. And whenever two of those three cards show up in any combination, then we know that there's something kind of big going on. Those three cards are the Wheel of Fortune, the Justice card, and the Judgment card. And here we have two of the three, with still some time for the Wheel of Fortune possibly to show its face if it desires to. But I think part of the perceptual issue here is being unclear about how it is possible to move forwards from this place. Because it feels like there's a void, but not the kind of void that we would like, which would be the escapism of the moment where we can get away from what feels uncomfortable and just fling ourselves to the far corners of the globe, away from what is irking our head. But it is a necessary process of... Why do I feel like individuation is such an important part of this, Gemini? It's almost like you feel that somehow that there's an isolation here. There's almost a rejection that is playing out here. And there's a desperate need to individuate and assert yourself over the situation, but you don't really know which direction you're asserting yourself in. And I think you're under so much pressure right now between these two cards and the energies that these represent. Your head feels really heavy. Yet we have the Three of Wands and the Four of Wands, which in and of themselves are really not... There's few ways of taking these, certainly in the context that they're being presented, that would see these as bad. I mean, what this is saying is there's a process going on here. It's a huge process. It's an individuation process, but it is creating a new foundation from which you can act, not just think. I mean, this Nine of Pentacles is such a strong card of independence and self-sufficiency. That while you're battling with the endings and what you really think and all that sort of thing, you're almost missing the bigger picture of what is happening, which is that you are fundamentally changing, and the way that you do things is fundamentally changing, and the way that you will do things in future is also fundamentally changing. Because for the first time in a long time, you actually have a handle on all of your resources. Now, your head may feel heavy, and it may not feel like a particularly joyous time, not like we would usually expect with the Four of Wands. Nevertheless, progress is being made, even if it is not being perceived. I think the mutable signs have an innate skill of being able to pivot away from stuff. Sagittarius does it, Pisces does it, Gemini definitely does it. Probably a little less Virgo. Virgo doesn't really pivot away. Virgo kind of drills down even deeper, right? Oh, I've just noticed that my camera's shut down. So I'm going to move to overhead only. Sorry, you're going to have to lose my rubbery face here. It happens when the room temperature hits 30 degrees. So there we are. Right. what feels like it's happening purely within your own head is actually happening outside of you. That's the best way that I can put it here, in so much as even the way that you are choosing to wrestle with the things that you are wrestling with right now is creating a new kind of way that you are showing up and dealing with things than you are currently aware of perceiving. I think that's what I'm trying to say, because in the Three of Wands we have action, and it's action that is taken externally to you. It is quite often what shows up after the crossroads of the Two of Wands, right? We're picking a direction. The Three of Wands is we're moving in that direction. With the Four of Wands, we have the creation of a new foundation, and it is usually a point of celebration. It's a card that represents family. It's a card that represents home. Maybe what's being negotiated with you is a new understanding of what that looks like, and it's probably not what it used to look like. So whether it's relationships with your parents, or relationships with your children, or relationships with your siblings, or even cousins and things like that. But if it isn't about distinct relationships that you can point to and say it's about these, then it's a new way of relating to community more generally, where you are showing up in an individuated state. I just don't think that you can quite see the breadth of it yet. Tell me about this Four of Wands. Five of Pentacles. That's very telling. Ace of Pentacles. It's almost like you can't quite see what you are creating right now, what feels like a lack, what feels like a void, what feels like to some extent an absence in your life is actually creating the perfect foundation for the new. But the difference between perception and reality, let's say perception and reality, is striking. I really like this dragon on this Ace of Pentacles. Like, I do. But I've always thought that this dragon looked a little stricken. Let's see if we can focus. It looks startled. And I've always thought that that was slightly out of place for the energy of an Ace of Pentacles. You know, Pentacles representing investment and value and our attention and our care for things. But I don't think that that's too far from the imagery is not too far from the truth of what I'm feeling for you here. There is a desperate paying of attention to something, but you don't realize that you're actually nurturing something. You think you're dealing with a void, and actually you are dealing with a foundation. Everything just feels a little bit groggy. Now, with Uranus in your sign, in the early degrees of your sign, I think he's only sitting at about 3 degrees at the moment. There is, the ripple of electric shocks running through that entire house. So anything that you have in Gemini is getting, that kind of owl sort of spark to it. But maybe it's even in that reaction to the spark that there's some real gold starting to come to the surface. Maybe it's the culmination of however many planets you have in Gemini, all receiving that kind of electric shock that is creating a synthesis that at this point you can't see. This is really fascinating, Gemini. Let's have a look and see what the next step is for you. Right, Six of Swords is in the reverse. No running at this point, Gemini. What's the next step for Gemini? Oh, fucking hell. Okay, Page of Pentacles is in the reverse as well. Oh, goodness. Absolute clusterfuck. Ace of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. That's delightful. But look here. We've got the Temperance card. We've got the Seven of Swords. And we've got the King of Cups. I would say that the struggle that you are having right now is a very necessary step on the road. And I think perhaps what is needed here is a bit of recontextualization about what it is that you are actually experiencing right now. Because I think a lot of you feel like you're failing yourselves in terms of your ability to be able to process the information that you're working with at the moment. And it isn't necessarily borne out by what I can see from the zoomed out perspective that I'm in. Because this Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck is reiterating, it's almost like re-triggering the message of the Three of Wands and the Four of Wands. It's saying, no, there is something very real starting here. Now, it's not happening fast, and that's never going to be fun for Gemini. And particularly when it comes to how you're processing the information and how you're making sense of things, that's always that part of the issue. Is that you're feeling like you need to make sense of it. I think it might be Gemini, because this pivot and being able to look for information over here or information over here and just keep, ping-ponging between all these different bits of information is, to some extent, an aspect of, it's not only a strength of yours, but it is something that is so strong it can act like a defense mechanism sometimes. And the problem is that you don't feel like you can do that. You don't feel like you can move forwards. What I'm seeing is that you are moving forwards and you don't even realize. But any escape that you're trying to plan for yourself is probably not the right move. Why? Well, because the sun is currently in Cancer, and Cancer is a very strong a sign with a very strong emotional component to it, right? So we need to understand the underpinning emotions that are going on with the way that the whole thinking thing is happening for you. But Mercury is also in the sign of Cancer. Your ruling planet is in the sign of Cancer, which he's not really that fond of because it's water and that's not where Mercury does his best work. But he's also getting ready to station retrograde, which means going back over stuff that we thought we had dealt with. The next step for you is kind of to allow your mercurial processes to kind of float wherever the tide is taking them. I would say specifically to discover where the water actually is. Where is the source of the water? It's not apparent in the background of the card. We know it's there though. So we have to find the source of the flow. I feel like suspending the need to simply just file the information and move on, and recognizing that actually there is a profound opportunity for healing for you if you are brave enough to take it. And it does involve you staying outside of your comfort zone, which is effectively where you are right now, to lead to this point where there is an emotional maturation taking place. There's a capacity for healing here that extends beyond your current perception of what it is. But you have to be very, very careful not to try and run away from it because it is uncomfortable. And we're all rather prone to doing that. The thing is, the Page of Pentacles in the reverse says it's not about the new, it's about the reconsideration of what we have already experienced and how we find a new way to process all of that. That is the mechanism by which this Page of Pentacles will turn the right way around, and we will see the new value in this. But it is entirely likely that for Cancer season, you don't get to move forwards in the way that you would like. It's like the universe will keep batting you back to this place so that you can make sense of it, so that you can make sense of the underlying emotions that have led to this place here. Now, it is in that there's this act of individuation occurs. It seems very, very strong. This is really interesting, Gemini. And I want to dig into this a little bit deeper. I know it's incredibly frustrating not to be able to report that, your head will stop feeling quite so heavy in the next week or two. But I think there's something far more important long-term happening than the alleviation of a moment of head heaviness. And I feel like you need to strunk it out, Gemini, not with a sense of judgment, although I suspect we'll be looking at places where judgment is being felt. And not necessarily in from a place of needing to no, I'm not going to go there with it. Not here. I shall save that for the extended. Um, this is profound. It is uncomfortable. I recognize it to be so. And I think it would be a mistake for you to try and run away from it. That's what I have to say. Um, Mercury retrograde in Cancer will have you returning back to it again and again and again, and it's always better to work with this energy than it is to try and avoid it, because this is where problems happen. But a retrograde planet is simply giving us an opportunity to review, to reassess, to reevaluate. And so your ruling planet is asking you to review, reevaluate, reassess the place of deep emotions as a precursor to a clean belief system that is already being established, even though you can't see it. You following what I'm saying? Okay, so I'm going to leave it here and I'm going to go over to the extended. If you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Self-I or do that on Circle. Links for both are in the description box below, as I said at the beginning. Yeah, let's go and see what all of this is about. So, know that I love you all very, very much. I'm sorry, I would love to be able to look at you and say that, but technology says no. Mercury retrograde on its way in. Take care, and I'll see you soon.